Hello and welcome to another Dinomyke video. I've built another ecosystem, but it's not just any ecosystem. This is possibly the biggest one I've done yet. This is the North American ecosystem. This is what North America looks like today. But dinosaurs didn't roam the earth when North America looked like this. In order to do this, we have to go back at least 65 million years. And this is what North America looked like then. Now in Jurassic World Evolution 3, we can only build islands, but I did my best to make this island look like a Cretaceous period North America. I focused heavily on the large northern sea and the land bridge between the east and the west, as well as the southern sea that eventually goes into the Gulf with the landmass that appears to be what is Southern California and modern day Mexico. Now let's get started. Before we release our first dinosaur onto this island, I just want to say I hope everyone had a happy and safe New Year's. With all the early support I'm getting so far from this channel, I'd like to make a goal to reach 500 subscribers by early March. That would be an early birthday present for me. So don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you enjoy these types of videos. And just like that, we're releasing our first dinosaur onto the island. This is the Edmontosaurus. Edmontosaurus means Edmonton lizard, named after the fossils found near Edmonton, Canada. It's another late Cretaceous dinosaur that lived about 66 million years ago. It is one of the best preserved fossils ever found. It was about 43 feet long and weighed up to 5 metric tons. In keeping our tradition of naming the first dinosaur out of the hatchery, we name our first Edmontosaurus Eduardo. With the next herbivore that we are releasing onto the island, we are releasing an Ankylosaurus. Its name means fused lizard. It lived about 66 million years ago. It got up to lengths about 26 feet long, weighing up to 8 metric tons. This dinosaur is famous for its extremely bony tail club. It is believed that it used its club tail to swing at predators in defense. We keep our tradition of naming our female Ankylosaurus Bumpy, in reference to Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. Still focusing on populating the west side of the island, we move north of the hatchery to release our next herbivore. We now release the Triceratops, their name meaning the three-horned face. This dinosaur lived about 66 million years ago, got up to about 30 feet long, weighing about 12 metric tons. This is one of the largest horned dinosaurs to ever exist. This dinosaur is believed to live in groups of herds, and it could even fight off predators like the T-Rex. I decided to name our Triceratops Thomas because he's gonna hit like a train. The next herbivore I decided to release was the Pachycephalosaurus. Its name means thick-headed lizard. It lived about 66 million years ago and was about 16 feet long, weighing up to about 1,000 pounds. This dinosaur is famous for its thick skull. People believe that they used its skull for headbutting or display to compete with others, but more recent studies suggested that they may have used their head for just side-to-side pushing, not full-speed headbutts. I then decided to name our Pachycephalosaurus Pac-Man. Bumpy was getting a little upset that she wasn't getting enough attention and wanted us to see her walk up the hill with a very cinematic background. I don't blame her, considering she's used to being on TV. The next dinosaur we're releasing is going to be released in the northeast. This is the Stigmoloch. The name means demon from the river Styx. The reason for that is because it has a terrifying looking skull, and you can tell from those spikes. This is a dinosaur from about 66 million years ago. It was about 10 feet long, weighing up to 1,000 pounds. Many scientists to this day still believe that a Stigmoloch may actually be a juvenile Pachycephalosaurus and not a separate dinosaur species. And of course, we name our Stigmoloch Stiggy. The next dinosaur we decided to release is the Stegosaurus. Its name means roofed lizard, referring to how the plates were thought to be flat at first. This is one of the oldest dinosaurs we're going to have in our ecosystem, as it lived in the Jurassic period about 145 million years ago. It was about 30 feet long, weighing up to 5 metric tons. There's a lot of debate on what the plates on its back may have been used for, but it's best believed that it was used for either display or temperature regulation. I of course decided to name our Stegosaurus Sega. A lot of our herbivores are settling in nicely, especially the Triceratops, as they have already established a nest, a good source of water, which is not too far from the vegetation that they like to eat as well. Most dinosaurs right now are actually settling in, establishing their territories, which is going to be where they will find their food and water sources. This is incredibly important as I'm only releasing one batch of each species to see which one will thrive the most. Admittingly, I have made each area a very livable biome with plenty of different kinds of vegetation in each area, as it will be crucial to establish a large population to thrive. After all, North America had some of the most vicious carnivores ever discovered, and because of those vicious carnivores, our herbivores had to adapt to a harsh environment where only the strongest survive. If you as an herbivore did not develop evolutionary defenses, you were easy picking for the carnivores that existed in North America. We'll see which herbivore in this ecosystem is best able to adapt to the introduction of carnivores. With that being said, we're not quite done yet, releasing more herbivores onto the island. The next dinosaur is the Apatosaurus. Its name means deceptive lizard. It lived in the Jurassic period about 151 million years ago, and this thing was a monster at 75 feet, weighing up to 30 metric tons. The reason for its nickname being deceptive lizard is because it was commonly confused with the already discovered species Brontosaurus. This dinosaur was very unique as it may have used its whip-like tail to make cracking sounds. I then decided to name our Apatosaurus Toto. So far, the Triceratops are taking advantage of this time without the carnivores on the island to lay yet more eggs. The next dinosaur I released onto the island is the Archaeornithomimus. Wow, I said that on the first try. Its name means ancient bird mimic. This dinosaur lived about 70 million years ago during the Cretaceous period, and it was about 13 feet long, weighing up to 440 pounds. It is believed that this dinosaur was likely one of the fastest dinosaurs. I decided to name our Archaeornithomimus Archie. While checking in on the Edmontosauruses, well, look at that. The Triceratops eggs decided to hatch. This is definitely a plus for the Triceratops, as they have a very formidable defense against the carnivores with those large horns. The larger their population, the better off they are to survive. The next dinosaur I decided to release onto the island was the Dinosaurus. Its name means oak lizard, referring to the plants that it may have eaten. This is another late Jurassic period dinosaur that lived about 145 million years ago. It was about 13 feet from head to tail, weighing about 330 pounds. This dinosaur had rather large eyes, suggesting it may have had good vision. It also relied on its speed to escape predators such as the Allosaurus during the Jurassic period. I then decided to name our Drysaurus Daryl. Now here are two very formidable herbivores with very capable defenses. The Ankylosaurus with its armor and club tail, and the Stegosaurus with that long-reaching tail with the bone spikes acting as a heavy-hitting mace. Unfortunately, these species can't seem to get along, and the Ankylosaurus will have to walk away with an injury it will struggle to recover from. And we're yet to introduce the carnivores. It's likely going to have a challenging life ahead in this ecosystem. The next dinosaur I decided to release was the Nasutoceratops. Its name means big-nosed horned face. This dinosaur lived about 75 million years ago. It was about 16 feet long, weighing up to 2 metric tons. It has two very long horns curved that pointed outward, meaning that it likely used these horns to defend itself against predators. I then decided to name the Nasutoceratops Naruto. Immediately following the Nasutoceratops, I decided to release the Parasaurolophus. Its name means near-crested lizard. This dinosaur lived about 73 million years ago. It got up to about 33 feet long and weighed about 3.5 metric tons. I then decided to name our parasaur Paul. The next animal I decided to release was the Quetzalcoatlus. This is not a dinosaur, this is a flying reptile, and it is among the largest animals to have ever taken flight. This animal lived about 66 million years ago, got up to about 36 feet long. That means it was as tall as a giraffe. I then decided to name our first Quetzal Quincy. While releasing our Quetzal pair onto the island, the Stigmolochs decided to fight. Our main Stigmoloch, Stiggy, ended up having to walk away with some organ trauma from this. This does not bode well, as we are beginning to introduce aerial predators onto the island. Soon, not only will they have to look out for what's lurking above them, but also on the ground. After that, I decided to release another flying reptile onto the island. This is the Pteranodon. It lived about 84 million years ago and was up to 23 feet. At the time, this was one of the largest flying animals. And for those of you that have seen The Land Before Time, I decided to name this Pteranodon Petrie. And right by where the Pteranodons decided to settle in, the Stigmolyques decided to nest. The next dinosaur I decided to release is an omnivore. This is the Struthiomimus. Its name means the ostrich mimic. It lived about 66 million years ago, got up to about 15 feet long, and weighed up to about 440 pounds. I then decided to name our Struthiomimus Theo, and here we are. The Stigmolyque eggs have hatched. 3 new dinosaurs have been introduced into this ecosystem. Hopefully this boosts their survivability chance, and hopefully they can keep nesting to keep increasing those numbers, because soon the carnivores are going to be introduced onto the island. Now here's a Pteranodon Petrie hunting down an Archaeornithromimus. Now this is one of the longest hunting sequences I have ever seen, so we're going to see how many Pteranodon facts I can list off before he even catches the dinosaur to eat it. So this is the Pteranodon. It is a flying reptile, not a dinosaur. It lived during the late Cretaceous period about 86 to 84 million years ago in what is now North America, especially in the central part of the United States. About 23 feet long, it had a long toothless beak, had long narrow wings, a large crest over its head, which was likely used for display, balance, or steering while flying. The males had a larger crest on their head. Pteranodons were excellent soarers, very similar to modern seabirds, and they walked on all 4 limbs. And he finally got it. Eat up, Petrie. We have a long road ahead of us. The next dinosaur I'm releasing onto the island is the Nodosaurus. Its name means the knobbed lizard, referring to its bumpy armor. This is another armed dinosaur similar to the Ankylosaurus, but it just doesn't have the same club tail. This dinosaur gets about 20 feet long and weighed up to 2 metric tons. I ended up naming our Nodosaurus Noble. It looks like Petrie the Pteranodon learned from the last hunt that he did and successfully took down this Archaeornithromimus within a decent amount of time. And not only that, it also looks like he taught his flock how to do the same thing. As I'm done releasing herbivores onto the island, let's take a look at how well everyone seems to be getting along, sharing the same watering hole access in peace. Minor territory fights here and there. So far, the only predators right now are striking from above, but now all that is about to change. This is the Utah raptor. This is the largest known raptor dinosaur and our first pure carnivore released onto the island. This dinosaur lived about 122 million years ago, got up to about 23 feet, 6.5 feet at the hip, and weighed about 2,200 pounds. I then decided to name our Utah raptor Udo. Every nest and every hatchling is important for any species survival at this point. Here are some Dryosaurus hatchlings. Will they make it to adulthood in order to survive the carnivores that are now being released onto the island? I guess we'll have to wait and see. So far, the herbivores are hardly reacting to the Utah raptors. Right now, though, the Utah raptors are just expanding their territory, not exactly looking for the hunt. Soon that will change, though, as the competition is about to be introduced. This is the Dinomyke, the Utah raptor's direct competitor. Their name means the terrible claw. This dinosaur lived about 108 million years ago, got up to about 11 feet, and weighed about 220 pounds. I then decided to name the Dinomyke Danny. Danny the Dinomyke. Shortly after releasing the Dinomyke, Stigmolyques were born. But my question still remains, is it too late for these species to survive, as the carnivores are now being released onto the island? I guess we'll have to wait and see. The next dinosaur I decided to release is the Coelophysis. Its name means hollow form, referring to its hollow bones. I actually believe that this is the first Triassic period dinosaur that I'm going to release in any of my ecosystems. This dinosaur lived 203 million years ago. Got up to about 10 feet long from head to tail and weighed about 65 pounds. I then named our Coelophysis Celo Brown. Immediately following the release, we have Quincy here taking down a Struthiomimus. You can just see the sheer size of the Quetzalcoatlus as it's able to just pick up this dinosaur, like it's absolutely nothing. The next dinosaur I decided to release was the Dilophosaurus. Its name means two-crested lizard, even though there is no evidence that it spat venom or even had a neck frill. This dinosaur lived in the early Jurassic period about 193 million years ago. From head to tail, it was about 23 feet and weighed up to about 1,000 pounds. I then decided to name our Dilophosaurus Dilo. Petrie is now a father, as Pteranodon eggs have hatched. So far, our flying reptiles on the island have been reigning supreme, swooping down at much smaller sized dinosaurs. We'll just have to wait and see until much larger predators start competing for the same exact food source. And here we have a couple Deinonychus seeing who's going to take over the alpha position of that pack. The next dinosaur I decided to release was the Ceratosaurus. That's right, it's time for the big boys to start coming out to play. Its name means horned lizard due to its distinct horn on its nose. This dinosaur lived about 148 million years ago, was about 20 feet long head to tail, and weighed about 2,200 pounds. And of course, I did decide to name our Ceratosaurus Carrie. It was only a matter of time before Udo the Utah raptor found the Dilophosaurus. They do not get along, and of course he takes out the Dilophosaurus with ease. Witnessing what Udo just did to their packmate, the other Dilophosaurus decide it's much safer to run into the deep end of the water as the Utah raptor pack pushes up to the shore. The Dilophosaurus do not want to take this fight. As CeeLo Brown makes his way out of cover to try and look for some easy scavenging options, a Utah raptor spots him and decides to chase him away. But just as the Dilophosaurus thought the Utah raptor's attention was away from them, they struck again, and down goes another Dilophosaurus, all within minutes of each other, taking a big hit to their population. The shorelines of the North Sea are busy today as the Ceratosaurus takes no time in picking a fight. Unfortunately for them, it's with the Stegosaurus. These herbivores are tough to take down even for much larger, more formidable carnivores. This Ceratosaurus is lucky to walk away with no major injury. While our attention was on the Stegosaurus fight, yet another Utah raptor took down another Dilophosaurus, and CeeLo Brown's packmate found his scavenging opportunity. Unfortunately, this is going to be the end of Daryl the Dryosaurus as he's being hunted down relentlessly by a Deinonychus. It really stood no chance as the Deinonychus also has very formidable speed. The Utah raptors are really wasting no time in taking out the Dilophosaurus population. Unfortunately, Dilo goes down and there's only one left. I hadn't realized until about now that the Deinonychus group I released onto the island split into two separate packs. This pack here is trying to take off more than they can chew though by attempting to hunt a Triceratops. Unfortunately, they are just getting ragdolled around and don't survive the hunt. But life presses on and we release our next dinosaur, the Allosaurus. Its name means different lizard. This dinosaur lived about 145 million years ago. It got up to about 33 feet head to tail and weighed about 3 metric tons. The Allosaurus was the top predator of its ecosystem long before the Tyrannosaurus rex even existed. I ended up naming the Allosaurus Aloha. It seems the Ceratosaurus did not learn its lesson from last time, as it since ran off to heal and came back to fight the same exact Stegosaurus. As they both managed to get some pretty good hits in, getting hit with that Stegosaurus tail does some pretty serious damage to any dinosaur no matter what size. Hopefully this time the Ceratosaurus can lick his wounds and learn his lesson. The next dinosaur I decided to release was the Albertosaurus. Its name means Alberta lizard, named after the Canadian province it was discovered in. This dinosaur lived about 68 million years ago. It got up to about 30 feet from head to tail and weighed about 2.5 metric tons. It was smaller and lighter than the T-Rex, but just as formidable in its own territory. And I of course decided to bring Bundy back from our wetlands ecosystem. Here we have Carrie the Ceratosaurus hunting down Apache. Maybe he should let his packmates know that perhaps they should go after smaller prey and stray away from the Stegosaurus. Carrie shows his speed moving in and around the trees and brush and still manages to take down the smaller prey. Since introducing the larger carnivores into this ecosystem, I feel like there's been a stress on the herbivores so far. There's less nesting occurring, as perhaps right now the mindset is currently set on survival. Well, there's still one dinosaur we have yet to release, the apex predator of North America, the king, the tyrant, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And as you guessed it, its name means the Tyrant Lizard King. This dinosaur lived about 66 million years ago, and from head to tail got up to about 43 feet, 13 feet high at the hips, and weighed about 9 metric tons. We of course name our pair Rexy and Tyrone. Then here we have a Dinomyke taking down yet another Dryosaurus. Thank God that the Dryosaurus were able to pad their population with a few nestings. And speaking of nestings, here we have some new Utah raptors being introduced into our ecosystem. And here we have Aloha just absolutely ragdolling a Stigmolic into a watering hole it got too close to. Then we get a sighting from the very last Dilophosaurus trying to take down a Parasaurolophus. Luckily for the Dilophosaurus, in the Jurassic World universe, it has poison that it can use to its advantage to help take down much larger prey, reducing the fact that it no longer has a pack. Then we move on to Tyrone attempting to chase down a Struthiomimus that has a significant head start. Quickly giving up, and it spots a dinosaur that can't exactly run away due to its size. Toto the Apatosaurus. This poor guy, but he does have the size to use as a pretty decent defense. Although against a T-Rex, you'll need a lot more than size. Tyrone is able to take a few good bites onto the legs of Toto, and fortunately for Toto, Tyrone will give up here, and Toto will have the opportunity to heal up and live another day. Tyrone, still hungry from 2 failed hunts, was able to track down the Parasaurolophus that the Dilophosaurus attacked. It was unable to recover from its wounds. Rexy, on the other hand, thinks smarter, not harder, finds Apache and hunts it down. Apache has no chance against a T-Rex. The Ceratosaurus logic seems to be going the opposite direction I was hoping. From multiple failed attempts at a Stegosaurus, it tries to take on Tyrone. Both come out with an injury, although the Ceratosaurus comes out with a much larger one. Tyrone will recover fast from this fight, as he wants to give us the most cinematic view possible, perhaps auditioning for the next Jurassic World movie. Immediately after Tyrone's audition, he then turns his attention towards the Apatosaurus. Tyrone's aggression may end up being his biggest weakness as well. Even though the Apatosaurus doesn't pose much of a threat right now, Tyrone is showing aggression to anything in his path. Not just hunting from hunger, but as Owen Grady would say, he's killing for sport. The Allosaurus up in the northeast are protective of their watering hole. No Stigmolic can get anywhere near this water source without the Allosaurus just ragdolling them into the deep. Tyrone, who is now starving from failed hunts and failing to recover from his injury with the Ceratosaurus, finds a Parasaurolophus that has wandered away from its herd. Tyrone should be able to fill his belly from this hunt and start his road to recovery. The Parasaur took Tyrone pretty far out of his territory and has wandered away from easier prey. He's now in the northeast with the Allosaurus. Unfortunately, Pac-Man, our Pachycephalosaurus, was hunted down by Carrie, the Ceratosaurus. So far, the Ceratosaurus and the T-Rex are hunting more than what the herbivores can sustain. And almost right on cue, we have Rexy attempting a hunt on the Apatosaurus. Now, even though the Apatosaurus took a couple of hits from Rexy, due to its size, it's able to retreat into the deep end of the sea to escape the attack, and perhaps live to see another day. After attempting a hunt on the Apatosaurus, Rexy decides to take a rest. As of right now, on the western side of our North American continent, she is the only T-Rex, but that doesn't mean she doesn't have competition. She still must continue to hunt in order to survive. She successfully takes down yet another Patchy. The Triceratops continue to thrive as more babies hatch from their eggs. The herd of Triceratops is doing well protecting their young, as they are one of the few species so far to have juveniles mature into adults. Although the Utah raptors were released near the Central Sea, they naturally found their way south and are quietly thriving where they are at. Although there is a threat lurking closer and closer to them, for now, we leave them in peace. Up in the northeast, it did not take long before Tyrone crossed paths with an Allosaurus. Although these dinosaurs lived during different time periods in real life, not in my ecosystem, Tyrone makes easy work of the smaller Allosaurus. And here we get a glimpse of how the Triceratops continue to move in herds together, grazing the vegetation. Tyrone, now resting near his Allosaurus prize, catches a glimpse of the second Allosaurus grieving. Not feeling threatened at all, he just continues his rest. And here we have a rare sighting of the last Dilophosaurus fighting with the Deinonychus. Even though the rest of the Dilophosaurus population was taken out by raptors, this final Dilophosaurus refuses to go down without a fight. And hey, the Albertosaurus laid eggs. Now adding more fuel to the fire, the last remaining Allosaurus now has to watch as Tyrone feasts on Aloha. This is a grim sight for the Allosaurus. We'll have to see how this rivalry ends. As the first juveniles of Quetzals come to maturity, the second set of juveniles is born. I'd sure hate to be this Deinonychus resting, then turning around and seeing a silhouette of Rexy just looming over your shoulder. And just like that, the Albertosaurus eggs have hatched. Right now, the Albertosaurus made their way to the southeast part of the continent, their territory bordering with the Utah raptors. Another species in that area is the Quetzalcoatlus. There is a lot of competition here, so we'll have to see if the Albertosaurus parents have what it takes to bring these two young dinos into maturity. And yeah, if I was this Deinonychus, I would be panicking too if I had Rexy walking on top of me. And unfortunately for this Parasaurolophus, it too is also separated from its herd, likely not going to survive in the wetlands. And here we have a new batch of Struthiomimus, and it's a good thing because a lot of these things have been hunted down not only by Rexy, but the Deinonychus as well. And here we have a Quetzal hunting down an Archaeornithormimus. The sheer size of these things, just being able to lift up these medium-sized herbivores like it's absolutely nothing, is incredible to watch. And like a good parent, he's showing his young how to hunt. And here we have yet another sighting of the final Dilophosaurus attempting to hunt down Paul. Even though it gets a good attack in, it just absolutely gets corpse launched into oblivion. Standing up and realizing he's been launched into another dimension, he gives up on the hunt. It's fair to say that the Triceratops are the top survivors so far in this ecosystem, suffering no casualties yet and have a thriving juvenile population as well. They're doing so well that even the other herbivores are staying near them. Safety in numbers, as they say. For now. Unfortunately, our friend in the wetlands that got separated from the herd did not make it. And this Parasaur just cannot take a break. From getting attacked by the Dilophosaurus and getting poisoned, to now being hunted down by the Quetzal. And here the final Dilophosaurus surfaces again, attacking this time a Deinonychus. Looking back, I should have given this dinosaur a name, not realizing how resilient this dinosaur ended up being. I'll leave it to you guys though. Put it down in the comments what you would like to name this Dilophosaurus, who is beating the odds of survival. I know it's hard to see, but this is how he's doing it. Surviving by unfinished meals left by larger dinosaurs. And here we have Carrie the Ceratosaurus attempting to hunt down the Apatosaurus again. Right in front of Rexy, no less. Then, of course, Rexy decides to show Carrie how it's done. Rexy taking 2 large bites out of the Apatosaurus, and even though it tries to keep moving, the 2 attacks one right after another was just too much. Our first Apatosaurus goes down. I wanted to check in on Bundy and his family of Albertosaurus. After seeing the Quetzals get more active as well as the Utah raptors, most, if not all, of the herbivores have been chased out of this area. The primary food source in this region was the Struthiomimus. The remaining Struthiomimus have migrated a bit west to avoid the Utah raptors. In fact, despite Rexy being in the west, most herbivores, even if released on the east side, have migrated west to avoid Tyrone and the Pteranodons. The largest herds are in the west, and the carnivores are just picking off who strays too far away from the herd. The Triceratops being the main herbivore species with a very formidable defense against any carnivore, even the smaller herbivores like the Dinosaurus found their way around the Triceratops. Unless Bundy decides to move his Albertosaurus family more west or further north, their future looks pretty grim. And here we have two Stigmolics jousting some headbutts back and forth with each other as we got a glimpse of Noble the Nodosaurus running in the background. Unfortunately, we missed the fight between Tyrone and the final Allosaurus, as it ended pretty quickly as Tyrone took down the final Allosaurus with ease. And here a Quetzalcoatlus catches an Edmontosaurus who strayed too far away from the herd. It is just way too dangerous to step away from the safety of that herd. And here's the Deinonychus taking down yet another Dryosaurus. And here we have a female Struthiomimus getting hunted down by a couple Utah raptors right in front of her juveniles. Rexy has just found her way just southeast of the Central Sea, straight into the path of a Nasutoceratops. Despite those long defensive horns, Rexy is just too much for the Nasutoceratops. Whatever she doesn't finish eating here will likely feed the Utah raptor juveniles as they own this territory. Unfortunately for Tyrone, his aggression got the best of him. Anything that passed in front of him, he attacked, sometimes not even eating it. With too many pteranodons nearby scavenging what they can for an easy meal, he could never really return to a previous hunt to continue eating. I noticed Tyrone was trying to find his way back to the crossing that would lead him back west, but he just could not survive. Rest in peace, Tyrone. Now, unfortunately, Eduardo, the Edmontosaurus, gets taken out by a Quetzal, immediately following up by another Deinonychus taking out yet another Dryosaurus. It seems like they found their primary food source. As we get to the tail end of this video, I just wanted to remind you that if you end up liking this video, please leave a like as it greatly helps this video, and consider subscribing if you like this type of content. Moving on, we find Carrie the Ceratosaurus finding what's left of Tyrone, immediately followed by a pack of Deinonychus trying to take out Thomas the Triceratops. And, well, it's not really working out for the Deinonychus as, well, they were just simply ragdolled off of Thomas. The Triceratops are just too much for these smaller carnivores to take out. Moving on, we see Rexy letting the Utah raptors know that this is no longer their territory. Carrie is now walking along the river's edge, satisfied with a stuffed belly. Rexy is no longer in his territory, so he can strut with confidence that he will rule this area. Of course, until Rexy decides to make a return after she is through running havoc in the south. Speaking of Rexy, as she continues her reign of terror in the south, she takes out more Utah raptors, then immediately shifts focus to yet another Nasutoceratops. This hunting style oddly resembles another T-Rex that existed on this continent that didn't exactly end well. None of that matters right now as she goes to a cliff's edge and lets out a roar, letting anything know that remains in this area that this place is now hers. The North American continent during this time of the dinosaurs was a chaotic time. Being an herbivore, if you did not have a formidable defense, you had some of the most vicious carnivores of the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous period lurking around waiting for their opportunity. Due to the amount of competition of territories, not just on the ground, but from the sky, if you failed to adapt or perhaps follow the food source, it was likely the end. Like our Albertosaurus family who failed to adapt of migrating herbivores out of their territory due to competing carnivores over the same food source. Of course, there were those who did adapt well, who even had grim beginnings, such as our Dilophosaurus, who ended up surviving this entire ecosystem by himself. Perhaps he was following Rexy around in the wooded cover, eating what she didn't eat. Hopefully Rexy doesn't succumb to the same fate as Tyrone. Thank you for joining me in this travel back in time to North America during the time of the dinosaurs. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. I'd like to hit 500 subs in March as a goal. Let me know what dinosaur was your favorite in this video and what ecosystem you'd like to see next in the comments below. And until next time, Dinomyke out.